Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 23rd of September. Now it's 10 o'clock in the evening, Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news for this second update for a day. News on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and hopefully you will find this news segment informative and interesting, useful. And if so, dear friends, please like the video and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with algorithms and help to reach wider audience. Also, as always, after news segment, I will join community chat. And if you have a question or comment that you want me to react on, please use capital letters in your comment or capital Q, and also you can use, of course, super chat feature on Rumble or Round feature for that. And if you want to support in general my work, links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. Links to support platforms that I have. That's been said, dear friends. Let's start news segment. Lot of news to unpack. And first is coming from TASS News Agency. This report is based on Defense Ministry's latest update that Russian armed forces liberated Pereznaya settlement in DPR. Let me show you on the map where this settlement is located. So this is, of course, we are familiar with this map. And if we zoom in on the southern side of southern flank of Seversk, we can see Pereznaya settlement. And after liberation of the settlement, maybe we would not be mistaken if we will assume that Russian troops are beginning or finalizing, let's say, preparations of the ground for offensive towards the Seversk from southern sector, and maybe even encirclement. This morning, I reported about progress of the Russian armed forces from Serebryanka forestry towards Zakatnaya Platonovka settlements, and reports were that Russian armed forces established direct fire control on our main supply and supporter line that Seversk garnison, Kiev regime's garnison in Seversk, has, and connects it with Yampol and most importantly Liman. So it's going to be very difficult for Kiev regime's forces in Seversk to get any supply and support, at least without significant challenges. That's been said, dear friends. Let me continue with some other news. And well, TASS News Agency is reporting that up to 700 Ukrainian armed forces soldiers were blocked in Kupyansk, another sector where Russian armed forces did achieve significant progress. This offensive on Kupyansk became as a surprise for many. But according to reports that I have seen, according to reports from Russian militaries, from Russian media, at least 50-60% of Kupyansk is under Russian control, and already cauldrons have been created in a city. And in one of the cauldrons, 700 Ukrainian military personnel was trapped. Let me give you some details on that. So Ukrainian armed forces group trapped in the Kupyansk with numbers up to 700 personnel, 250 of whom have already been killed. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported about this. So, well, I guess in either this night or tomorrow, probably Russian troops will finalize neutralization of this significant, large group, basically, large group of enemy forces in that cauldron in Kupyansk. And I guess we will see additional update on the situation in the city, and maybe after neutralization of this big group, Kiev regime's garnison will collapse completely in that direction. Also, dear friends, RIA Novosti is reporting based on sources that Russian armed forces attacked the Ukrainian armed forces command center in Chernigov region. I mentioned this report this morning, but I think it is important. development and worth repeating. So a successful strike was carried out on the command post of the 144th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. There are losses among officers and military equipment, agency source reported. And well, one might argue that 144th Separate Mechanized Brigade of Kiev regime's forces have been quite effectively decapitated as a result of this strike. Also, dear friends, RIA Novosti is reporting that there was another attack on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and as a result of this attack, external power supply for the 10th time since the conflict began has been disrupted. Let me give you some details on that. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant lost its external power supply on a Tuesday for the 10th time since the start of the military conflict, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi reported. So at least IAEA and its chief is acknowledging that there is constant attacks on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. They never pointed at the Kiev regime, never called the Kiev regime to stop targeting a nuclear facility, but at least they are acknowledging that nuclear power plant is being attacked. I don't know if Western media is reporting about it. I don't know if Western public, especially in Europe, by the way, that is very close to the NPP. I don't know if public in Europe is informed that their governments are supporting nuclear terrorism and encouraging Kiev regime to conduct these attacks on nuclear power plant. But this is extremely dangerous situation. Probably all of us will agree on that. And we just being lucky, to put it simply, we just being lucky that despite constant attacks of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, we did not, for now, face the nuclear disaster there. But you tell me, dear friends, how long we're gonna be this lucky? It's an open question, isn't it? So yes, nuclear terrorism of the collective West and their proxy regime continues, and this is extremely dangerous because we'll understand that outside external power supply is extremely important for a cooling system. Reactors are shut down, but nevertheless, nuclear fuel needs constant cooling, and energy for cooling system is provided with external power sources. So this is a direct threat to nuclear safety of the nuclear power plant. Also, dear friends, I think this is important news that I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X pages, that production of the modern air defense systems has doubled in Russia this year. The Almaz-Antey Air and their Space Defense Corporation more than doubled their production of volumes of the S-350 Vityaz air defense systems and S-400 Triumph surface-to-air missile systems in 2025. This was reported by the corporation's press service. In addition, a batch of stationary Panzer SMD systems were recently delivered to their army. And of course, this is very important because, I'm reporting on daily basis about this long-range strikes, attempts of their NATO and their proxy regime to strike deep inside the Russian territory, mainly with the drones, but quite often they are deploying British and French cruise missiles. And unfortunately, there is an extremely high risk that in short time, globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe will go ahead with the next phase of escalation, which is, in my understanding, is a simultaneous combined attack on Russia, basically, potentially with their attempt of a decapitation strike on Russian political and military leadership, large-scale terrorist attacks inside Russia with the Western assets being involved, and simultaneous massive cyber attack on Russian Federation and their massive long-range drone and missile strikes. So air defense systems definitely will become handy, more air defense systems, although we all know, dear friends, based on reports of Russian Defense Ministry, that air defense systems on duty on regular basis, literally on daily basis, are intercepting vast majority of the incoming aerial targets. Also, Also, dear friends, interesting news from in regards to Crimea and the Chinese role in this crisis. And some might even argue that China is maybe getting ready to get involved in this crisis, maybe a little more actively. So report is that according to Financial Times, China sent a ship to the port of Crimea, ignoring the Western sanctions in place since 2014. Previously, Chinese ships avoided ports controlled by Russia. Article said ports in Crimea. The container ship Yangyang 9 sails under the Panamanian flag and belongs to a Chinese company, Guangxi Changjiao Shipping Company. What this vessel was carrying on board is not being specified, but nevertheless, this is first time we are seeing reports that a Chinese vessel actually entered Crimea, and this is I will argue this is a statement. This is a statement. Of course, no one can believe that this company sent its vessel into Crimea without being consulted about it with Chinese political leadership, let's say, or maybe they were actually ordered to carry out this mission, right? To deliver whatever goods into Crimean ports. So maybe, as I said, Beijing is preparing to ramp up its stance in regards to this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, and potentially maybe this is very strong statement, but maybe, just maybe, China is getting ready to or preparing to get involved in this crisis big time on the Russian side. Anything is possible. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. And as I already reported earlier, there is a high-level week of 80th anniversary of UN General Assembly that began today. A great number of leaders all over the world are in New York now and these days, and are making speeches, getting together, discussing all sorts of topics. And I will get to that in a minute, but I think this information worth our attention, that woman could become the UN Secretary General, according to Bloomberg sources, and woman might replace a current Secretary General, Gutierrez. Let me give you some details on that. The next UN Secretary General could be the first woman with the former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern among the possible candidates. Bloomberg reports of the 9 people who have led the UN, all have been men. Calls for change are growing louder. Resolution adopted this month calls on UN members to seriously consider women when selected candidates for the post of the Secretary General. The publication states the agency notes that in addition to Ardern, potential Security General candidates include Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley, former UN Human Rights Commissioner Michelle Bachelet, and UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed. So interesting news. I think I have no issues women being Secretary General of UN. I mean, who cares about genders, by the way? If they will do good job, that's the most important, right? So let's see. Maybe hopefully next Secretary General not going to be Rafael Grossi, current head of IAEA and absolutely compromised individual. And there are a number of other elements, including, believe it or not, including head of European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, that have been allegedly considered to be replacement for Gutierrez, probably some better candidates will be considered actually, and their better human being will replace Gutierrez. Anyways, dear friends, as I said, many leaders from all over the world are in New York these days due to this high-level meeting summit, and among them, of course, U.S. President Donald Trump. He made a speech today, and during this speech, he made the statements about unacceptability of Russian-Ukrainian war being, continuing. He also said that U.S. is ready to impose serious tariffs against Russia if it does not agree to end the conflict. Yet again, what kind of tariffs U.S. gonna impose on Russia? It's the U.S. that buys some stuff from Russia, including enriched uranium. So tariffing Russia on a trade means U.S. will pay more, right? U.S. energy will get more expensive. So I'm not sure Trump knows what he's talking about there, but I do have some videos of his speech in U.S. General Assembly. I give you some short clips on that. He also threatened China and India, by the way, not just Russia, but also China and India. Not surprisingly, he threatened these countries with tariffs. And let me give you some of the short videos that I have prepared for you. So for example, this one.
They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that.
So basically, Trump once again criticized Europe for buying Russian energy sources, and also he openly said that Europeans are fighting Russia. This is acknowledgement, isn't it? This is acknowledgement that Western world is directly involved in this proxy war that they are waging against us. Although on official level, majority of Western so-called leaders are stating that they are not involved. West is not involved. They are just providing some assistance to the regime. That's about it. But no, they are involved, and Trump said it openly. Just listen to him.
They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia.
And that's it. Acknowledgement from Trump there. And also, let me give you another video when he's kind of threatening China and India.
India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures.
So yet again, I'm not sure Trump really knows what he's talking about, because when it comes to trade between US and Russia, it's US that buys basically stuff from Russia mainly. Russia has a surplus in a trade with US, and volume is tiny compared to other trade partners of the Russian Federation. This year, trade between Russia and US is around 2 billion or 3 billion. I mean, really, really tiny amount. But as I said, it's mainly US businesses that are buying Russian stuff, including uranium, enriched uranium that is used in US nuclear power plants. So if Trump understands what he's talking about, then that's too bad, isn't it? Because he's considering taxing its own fellow citizens, right? Because Russian uranium will cost more for US, and they cannot avoid buying Russian uranium. And the energy secretary of US already acknowledged that a couple of days ago. But if Trump don't knows what he's talking about, that's also too bad, because he is at least formally president of US, and he should learn some stuff, for God's sake, man. He cannot go around and talk whatever he wants, because people are listening, right? And this is reputation of the US on the line. You might don't care about Trump, what he have to say or not, but it's US president, right? He's talking about, and it's reputation of the US on the line. And when it comes to China and India, well, I don't think US is actually in a position, or Europe for that matter, to continue this tariff war and trade war with either of these countries, India or China, by the way, because yet again, they will hurt their own economies, they will hurt their own consumers, first of all. But nevertheless, let's see. I mean, anything can be expected from these people, man, that are in charge of the collective West. Let's see what is going to happen. And also, let me give you another video, dear friends. While talking to people in the UN, of course, Trump could not avoid to praise himself or brag about how great he is and stuff like that. And I want to share with you this short video, dear friends, exactly about that, how many wars Trump has ended. And dear friends, please listen carefully. First time, if I remember correctly, Trump actually said correctly name of Azerbaijan. He pronounced it correctly, which is clearly progress, sort of. Let's listen to this.
Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable.
He's yet again, to say it mildly, exaggerating his role in ending anything, right? He's very much exaggerating. But anyways, let's listen.
You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand.
Okay, I can give him credit for this one because allegedly both leadership of both countries acknowledged that White House did play some role, contacted both sides, and called them to de-escalate. So I can give credit for this particular situation.
Kosovo and Serbia.
This is lie, by the way. Kosovo and Serbia were not in the war. This is just pure lie, by the way. Kosovo and Serbia was not fighting since the deployment of NATO troops in Kosovo. So there was no war there, right? Tensions, yes, but war, not. So he could not resolve the war that did not exist, right?
The Congo and Rwanda.
By the way, also Trump is exaggerating there because I read today article with the statements of a leader of Democratic Republic of Congo who said that, well, he thanked the Trump for attempt to de-escalate, but also he said that military confrontation did not end. He said that Congo will not allow U.S. to take all the resources of the Congo, and also he said that, well, we are thankful for Trump for his attempt to de-escalate and all that kind of stuff. Leader of Congo was quite polite, but same time he said, unfortunately, war continues, military actions continues. So Trump is either misinformed or ill-informed or just not really interested in the matter because he did not end their hostilities there.
A vicious, violent war that was. Pakistan and India.
Well, this one big one. This one is big, isn't it? India is upset with Trump, Indian leadership, exactly because of his statements and his claims that somehow it was him that ended the hostility between their sides, while in reality, based on reports that I have seen, dear friends, it was Pakistan that asked actually New Delhi for the escalation because Indian forces were smashing Pakistani militaries, and Indian militaries were about to go ahead with their more decisive actions, and Islamabad asked for a mediation, right? Asked for de-escalation, and New Delhi agreed. So it was Islamabad that initiated the escalation, not Trump, by the way. So when he says that he played key role in resolving that unfortunate situation, tragic situation between India and Pakistan, he's just not being honest. He's making stuff up, isn't it?
Israel and Iran,
Well,
Egypt.
Israel and Iran, by the way, he's saying that he resolved the issue with Israel and Iran seriously. How, for God's sake, bombing Iran and assisting Israel in a bombing campaign? This is just too crazy, man. To claim that you resolve Israeli-Iran conflict is absurd. We all know that Israeli side asked Washington to basically help them de-escalate because Israeli air defense systems were running short, by the way, of missiles, and more Iranian strikes were excessively successful, right? And Israel just needed a break. So Trump did not end nothing, really.
And Ethiopia
and Egypt and Ethiopia is also another lie, by the way. Egypt and Ethiopia were not in a war, right? There was issues between the countries, and still issue is there because Ethiopia built a dam on the Nile, Blue Nile, if I remember correctly, right? And Egypt and Sudan also had some issues with that. But Ethiopian side was very clear always that they will fill up a water reservoir in such a rate that Nile River will have enough water. So interests of Egypt, legit interests of Egypt and Sudan will be taken in account. So Ethiopia was never on escalatory ladder with Egypt, right? But they need energy, so they had to build this dam, right? This energy facility. And most importantly, Egypt and Ethiopia were not in a war, by the way. There was no war. Never existed, right? Military conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt. So how Trump, once again, resolved the conflict that didn't exist? Military conflict, war. It's nonsense, right? And he's talking about all this nonsensical stuff in UN, by the way, up front of the whole world to see. This is insane, man, truly.
In Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Okay, Armenia and Azerbaijan. At least he pronounced Azerbaijan correctly, and said that Azerbaijan was in a conflict with Armenia, and still is, by the way. Still is in a conflict, despite strong statements that we hear from White House when the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia were there. Well, sides did not yet sign up for a peace agreement, and they are still trying to resolve issues. And one of the main issues is that Azerbaijan wants control over the Zangezur corridor that links mainland Azerbaijan with the Nakhichevan exclave of that belongs to this former Soviet republic. And despite yet again strong statements in Washington, like months or 2 months ago, there is no actual progress on the ground. By the way, sides, Armenia and Azerbaijan, are not in an active war at this moment. And they were not actually ever in active war. Armenia was supporting Karabakh forces, Armenian self-defense forces in the Karabakh region, but neither of these countries ever declared war on each other. Although, since the collapse of Soviet Union, there was always tensions on the border between the sides, and these tensions continue. And every now and then, sides are shooting at each other. So nothing is resolved in regards to Armenia and Azerbaijan, man. I mean, let's be real here, right? But tell this to Trump, by the way, if he cares at all. So yes, that's also some interesting statements from Trump. But nevertheless, dear friends, let's continue with some other news. And I can see super chatter on a rumble from Viper. There is a two super chatter at this point, and Viper, I will react to your super chatter on rumble straight after news segment. And let's continue with some other news. And while Trump is threatening Russia, threatening Russian trade partners from UN, his teammate Marco Rubio, head of State Department, is talking about peace and escalation. So on one hand, Trump is pushing for further escalation, and on the other hand, Rubio is talking about de-escalation. And who you're gonna trust? How you gonna understand what these people are up to? And if you can trust anybody from current administration of US, when even leading figures are not consistent. Anyways, let me give you some details, dear friends. Ukraine has to agree to a peace deal with Russia. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has stated, he added that it is not up to the US to end the conflict. And that the two sides themselves must find a compromise. Since returning to office, US President Donald Trump has made repeated attempts to mediate the Ukraine conflict on words, just in words, by the way. He did not actually do much to de-escalate, initiating numerous rounds of talks with Russian officials and holding a summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska in mid-August, which did not really produce any positive results until now. The sides described their contacts as productive, but not a breakthrough was achieved. So how these talks were productive? If there is no breakthroughs, if there is no achievements, then how it was productive? This is just the words, by the way. This is just the words that actually have no freaking meaning when they are coming from certain individuals. Speaking on the NBC's Today show on Tuesday, Rubio replied that it is not up to us to end the war. When asked why the conflict continues despite Trump's repeated promises to end it on day one of his new administration, the Russians have to stop the war and the Ukrainians have to agree to a peace deal. He added, ending the conflict is still a priority for the Trump administration, Rubio mentioned. When asked about Washington's alleged reluctance to impose new sanctions on Russia, the Secretary of State said that US would like to retain the role of a broker in the conflict for as long as possible. Yet again, I mean, this is sickening, really. When these people that are formally, at least, in charge of US are playing this acting in a way that as if they are actually brokers or mediators, while we all know perfectly well that US is a leading country when it comes to proxy war against Russia that West is waging. Isn't it? Just a couple of days ago, by the way, Trump's administration authorized another military aid package for Kyiv regime worth $500 million. So a lot of weapons going to be sent to Kyiv regime. And a little earlier, very same Trump's administration authorized transfer of 3,000 plus cruise missiles to this Western-backed terrorist regime in Kyiv. So how are they mediators in a conflict that they provoke? And US was, of course, a leading state when it comes to coup d'etat in Kyiv in 2014, bloody coup d'etat. And US was and still is a leading country among anti-Russian coalition and in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. So how are they mediator, by the way, in the war that they provoke? I don't get it, man. Maybe you have explanation of that, dear friends. Please share your take. The minute we go heavy on the sanctions and everything else, our ability to act as a broker to bring about peace is diminished. He told the NBC the conflict could then go on for another 2 years, Rubio warned, adding that we hope to avoid this. He also accused Kiev's Western backers of hypocrisy. He is accusing himself of hypocrisy by saying they demand that US introduce harsh economic restrictions against Moscow, with some countries in Europe still buying massive amounts of oil and natural gas from Russia. And this is also a lie, dear friends. They are just creating false narratives when it comes to European purchases of Russian energy. Some 5-7 years ago, 10 years ago, a volume of Russian energy resources was truly high. In terms of gas supplies, for example, according to some reports, about 40% of gas that was imported by EU was coming from Russia. But now this percentage is dropped to just below double digits. I believe it's below double digits, and mainly Russia is selling to European countries LNG now, not pipeline gas so much, but LNG, right? And still overall volume is not that high. It could be like a couple of billions max, right? On year terms, just a couple of billions, by the way. And we should believe now that this couple of billions, I mean, Washington truly believes that this couple of billions that Russia is getting from Russian energy companies, by the way, this money is not going into Russian budget. This money is going to businesses, Russian businesses, right? And then they pay some taxes, right? And Washington thinks we will all believe that this couple of $1 billion are decisive, actually, to put some pressure on Moscow. Of course not. But Washington is exercising this topic of Europe cutting completely, purchases of Russian energy, and Europe and Washington is demanding Europe to impose the tariffs and the sanctions on China and India because your ruling class in US wants to further accelerate the industrialization of Europe. That's what is going on, Bob. They want to further accelerate the industrialization of the Europe. They know perfectly well that globalist control regimes in Europe are absolutely desperate to keep US in this proxy war against Russia, and Washington is using this leverage and making insane demands from Brussels and EU member states. And in many cases, quite successfully. We all remember recent agreement between EU and the US, right? That obligates EU to purchase 200 or 250 billion dollar worth energy from US on year basis, at least for next 3 years, which is insane. US don't even have so much energy to sell, right? And maybe US companies will actually buy Russian energy and then sell it to Europe, because US itself cannot fulfill this obligation on their part. So that's what is happening. All Washington or West American ruling class wants right now, as far as I can tell from Europe, is to force European bureaucracy to cut ties with not just with Russia, but also with other major trade partners that they have. And therefore, the industrialization process in Europe to further accelerate. And they know perfectly well, mostly companies that are shutting down their manufacturing in Europe are moving where? Into US, by the way. This is just statistics. You can check that, right? Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. And, well, I already spoke about statements of Trump. And when it comes to UN, by the way, there was some funny incident with Macron, president of France. His cortege was blocked by police because Trump was moving towards the UN. And I have to show you this short video. Maybe many members of our community already have seen this video, but I guess not everyone. So let me share. It's a funny stuff, by the way. So
I'm sorry, President. I'm really sorry. It's just that everything's frozen right now. There's a border creep coming right now. That's why. I'm sorry.
If you don't see it, let me cross.
Macron called the Trump, by the way, after his he was stopped his cortege. Let me.
How are you? Guess what? I'm waiting in the street because everything is frozen for you. Are we ready for a wine?
President doesn't have so much time.
Non, c'est bon,
Look at me, look at me. Voilà.
Thank you. Take care. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, just some funny situation there. Maybe nothing extraordinary, but nevertheless, it is interesting that police stopped his cortege. That's a question to organizers, by the way. That's a question to organizers. But we'll understand that there is dozens and dozens of delegations from all over the world, and of course, local authorities are giving priority to Trump, his cortege, his security, and they probably shut down everything around their headquarters of the UN. And eventually, President of France was forced to just walk his way towards the building. Okay, funny stuff there. And let's continue with some other news, dear friends. Well, this is very interesting. This is very interesting and important. Russian security services today shared information with public that European NATO nations are preparing to occupy Moldova, which is obviously a big deal, right? So let me give you some details on that. European NATO countries are preparing for a military intervention in Moldova, according to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service. The agency warned that Eurocrats in Brussels intend to ensure that Chinsau continues to pursue anti-Russian policies and will go as far as to occupy Moldova after upcoming parliamentary elections that's supposed to take place this weekend, by the way, if I remember correctly. In a press release on Monday, their SVR, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, stated it had observed the European NATO forces being concentrated in Romania near the border with Moldova, and further claimed that they are preparing to deploy to Odessa region in Ukraine to intimidate Moldova's breakaway region of Transnistria. It added that military servicemen from France and the UK have already arrived in Odessa. So this is a big claim, by the way. This is a big claim, and this claim is coming from Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service. So, well, European NATO member states are not just intend to occupy Moldova, basically, if upcoming elections will not go in a way that they want to see, but they already send military forward units of their military forces that are stationed in Romania and elsewhere, not far away from Moldova. They already sent these forward units into Odessa region. And by the way, we all remember what Russian president and other high-ranking officials said on a number of occasions, that any Western troops on Kiev-controlled territory will be seen as legit targets, and appropriate measures will be taken. So therefore, in upcoming days, we should expect some very interesting news in regards to these NATO troops in Odessa region from France and UK. Something very, very serious is going to happen there. According to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, forces from European countries intend to intervene following the upcoming Moldovan parliamentary elections, where Brussels and Chisinau, or Chisinau, we call it Chisinau, by the way. Why they changed this name, Chisinau or whatever, I don't know. But anyways, where Brussels and Chisinau basically will allegedly falsify the results in the hope of driving Moldovan citizens to their streets to defend their rights. After that, at the request of Moldovan President Maia Sandu, European NATO forces will enter their country and compel Moldovians to accept dictatorship under the guise of European democracy, the agency said. The SVR also alleged that even if there is no public unrest following the elections, European nations still intend to occupy Moldova, but at a later date under the pretext of armed provocations against Transnistria and Russian peacekeeping troops stationed in the region. The service said that their possible time frame for the operation is between the upcoming parliamentary elections and November 30. In its press release, the SVR argued that the alleged plot to occupy Moldova was motivated by the desire of European totalitarian liberal regimes to demonstrate their courage and their determination, as the plans to send Western troops to Ukraine have stalled. How these plans stalled if they already have sent a number of their troops into Odessa region, I don't know. Maybe SVR means that there is no massive scale of deployment of NATO troops. In that case, yes, I can understand that. Fearing a direct confrontation with Russia, Europeans intend to take it out on a small Moldova. Self-affirmation at the expense of the weak has always been an integral part of European colonialism, the service said. The SVR similarly warned in July that European NATO nations were molding Moldova into a military battering ram against Russia. And former Moldovan President Igor Dodon recently claimed that the bloc intends to use Moldova as a cannon fodder in a possible future conflict with Russia. I think this is very important information that is coming from Russia's foreign intelligence service, and we have some time frame, even from upcoming parliamentary elections to November 30, when some very dramatic events might take place in this former Soviet republic. But yet again, most important point in this statement, in my personal opinion, at this current point is that SVR acknowledged that military servicemen from France and UK have already arrived in Odessa. And this is a big deal. This is a big deal. If we know that Western military or French and British militaries arrived in Odessa, probably we also know where these troops are located, right? And that means soon Russian drones and missiles will visit those places, most likely. And dear friends, before I continue, let me notice, if I may, that as you know, this project is only exist as long as I have your support and assistance. And if you like my work, if you want to help dear friends to maintain this project, you can support through several means. You can donate to this project through PayPal and the Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, during the live streams, right now, for example, when I'm online, you can, and because I'm streaming on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble, you can use super chat feature on Rumble to send a question or highlight commentary, and also to donate to the project. And you can become premium subscriber on Rumble. So of course, everything counts to save this project. And many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support. Thank you. That's being said, dear friends, I see right now a question from Taigar Boskuran, China entering the war. Maybe we are observing preparations for ramp up of the Chinese involvement, because yet again, I already reported earlier that first time Chinese vessel with unknown cargo entered the Crimean port, and this is definitely a statement from China. And if we keep in mind that according to China Morning Post, if I remember correctly, Chinese foreign minister has stated that Beijing cannot allow West to achieve its goal of strategical defeat of Russia, then we can assume that we have good enough indicators that if necessary, China will get involved big time. And there may be this entrance of Chinese vessel into Crimean port is part of that process. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. Well, as I reported in today's first update, British Foreign Secretary, new one by the way, she was appointed on 5th of September, if I remember correctly. So, new Foreign Secretary stated that NATO is ready for a confrontation with Russia. Let me give you some details on that. The NATO is prepared to respond to Russia with their direct confrontation over the alleged airspace violations. British Foreign Secretary Jette Cooper stated, probably I'm butchering her first name, but anyways, that's what she is claiming. We also know, dear friends, that in New York, while making speech in UN, by the way, a Polish foreign minister also threatened Russia that Poland, and I guess he meant other NATO member states also, will shut down Russian planes if they will consider them a threat. Strong words are coming from enemies of Russia for sure. But today, what is interesting, NATO Secretary General, by the way, commented on this situation around alleged Russian fighter jets violating Estonia's airspace. And according to Reuters, NATO sees no threat in Estonia's fighter jet case. Interesting, isn't it? So NATO did not detect an immediate threat from Russian fighter jets that allegedly violated Estonian airspace, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said at the press conference. In the latest airspace violation we discussed today in Estonia, the NATO forces promptly intercepted and escorted the aircraft without escalation, as no immediate threat was assessed, Rutte pointed out. He also added that the fighter jets, which allegedly entered the Baltic countries' airspace, were escorted by Swedish, Finnish, and Italian army aircraft. And as you know, dear friends, earlier Estonian Prime Minister Kristen Michal said that their country's authorities had requested consultation with NATO members in accordance with their Article 4 of their North Atlantic Treaty regarding their alleged airspace violation. Prior to that, the Estonian authorities asserted that on the morning of September 19, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets violated Estonian airspace. False flag operation, by the way, complete false flag operation. They did not provide no evidences. Probably you have seen in the UN what Estonian representative did. They come up with some pictures of Russian MiG-31 that probably they took from Google. And they also come up with a Google map in which they just draw the line. Literally, that's what they did, man. They draw the line on the map. And they were presenting this as a sort of evidence that, look, I mean, that's how they violated the airspace. These people are sick, man. I'm telling you. These rabid Baltic Chihuahuas are definitely sick, right? And they might provoke extreme trouble, extremely deadly trouble for all of Europe. If not being checked, basically, right? And put into their places. This is extremely dangerous stuff, what is going on there. Yet again, no evidences, no nothing. And we all see, isn't it, pattern of the escalation, these false flag operations. There was Poland and the drone story, Romania and the drone story, now Estonia and some fighter jet story. Also, Poland made the claim that Russian jets fly by some Polish oil platform or something in the Baltics. Also, Norway, by the way, somehow remembered that this year, allegedly, 3 times Russian Air Force violated the Norwegian airspace. I guess tomorrow some other country, Sweden or I don't know, some other one will come up and say that, well, Russian fighter jets, Russian fighter jets with the green aliens are violating our space. Help us, we have to do fourth article, fifth article, Andromeda galaxy is attacking and that kind of shit, right? So it is extremely dangerous, by the way. Clearly, there is a pattern in place, false flag operation after false flag operation, and they are doing this for a reason. They are doing this for a reason, and what that reason could be. My answer is the next phase of escalation that globalist and globalist control regimes in collective West are planning. And I have spoke about this topic on numerous occasions. I don't think it is worth to go into that once again, but that's what is going on, I think. Globalists are desperate. Globalist control regimes in the West are desperate, and out of desperation, they are all in now. They are all in, and they would not stop, by the way. They will go all the way, all with the next phase of escalation against Russia. And I believe Moscow will have no option but to retaliate strongly after West will launch this next phase of escalation, and retaliate with such a force that globalists after that will have no option but to come to their senses, face the reality, and basically acknowledge that they lost and then capitulate before Russia. That's how it's gonna be, right? Meanwhile, as I recorded this morning in the first update, Trump was planning to have a meeting with Zelensky, and this meeting had happened, by the way, after Trump gave a speech in UN. He spared some 7 minutes allegedly to have a conversation with Zelensky, and he did make quite a few statements that are making headlines now all over the world. He was asked, for example, does he thinks NATO countries should shut down Russian jets in their airspace? And he said, yes, sir. And this is clearly invitation. Yet again, Trump is failing to this trap of the globalists, by the way. He probably not even realizes this. And unfortunately, there is no one in his closest inner circle to, brief him on this situation, because I don't think there is anything for U.S. Interests if we will end up in an open war, right? NATO and Russia. And when Trump says that, yes, he thinks NATO should open fire on Russian planes, well, that's an invitation, isn't it? That's sort of invitation for globalist control regimes to come up with another false flag operation, actually open fire on Russian planes, plane or the planes, or maybe on a naval vessel or something, and then it's going to be a roller coaster, right? Then of course Russia will retaliate, and we will end up in much more dangerous place than we are now. Let me give you this short clip of Trump's statement, by the way. Just look at this.
That NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Mr. President?
Too bad, man. Too bad. Trump is willingly and probably without probably without even understanding the situation is inviting more and more false flag operations from European states, from European elites, and this will happen. I'm afraid that's what is actually going to happen. And also, dear friends, when it comes to statements that Trump made, he went to say that he went to basically criticize Russia. He went to criticize Russia that, well, this conflict is kind of 3.5 years, right? Yes, what he said. Seriously. Anya now is telling me that Trump made additional statements, by the way, while I'm online. And he said that, oh, really? Allegedly, he said that, I mean, he wrote on his True Social. Unbelievable, man. Let's go through his statement there. Okay. Things are happening while I am online, but let's go topic by topic. I will come back to these latest statements of Trump. But earlier, during their talks with Zelensky, as you can see on your screen, dear friends, he stated that conflict between Russia and Ukraine would not end anytime soon. And according to U.S. President, this was supposed to end quickly, this conflict, and Russia does not look so outstanding after 3.5 years of a very tough fight. And it seems that this will not end for a longer time. Yet again, in the Western propaganda, by the way, they love to talk about how this conflict continues, special military operation continues now for 3.5 years, and Russia still did not liberate completely all the territories that are recognized as Russian by Russian constitution. There is many explanations for that. I did spoke about this topic many times. I would not go into details now, but what is interesting, this criticism is coming from NATO countries, isn't it? From the NATO countries that wasted their 20 years, 2 decades, by the way, in Afghanistan, and they ran away. So, I mean, are they really in a position to criticize Russia? I mean, let's be real here. Whole of NATO, by the way, and a number of other countries that were assisting militarily this alliance during the Afghanistan occupation, they were stationed there for 2 decades. They were fighting Taliban, Afghanistani people, basically, for 2 decades, and eventually they ran away. And we all remember videos, isn't it? And government, so-called government, that they left in Afghanistan did not stand even for, I don't know, a month, man. They collapsed straight away. And are these people really in a position to criticize Russia? I don't think so. Do they have expertise to criticize Russia or Russian special military operation? Do they have expertise or understanding what is going on and what is the task and the purposes of the Russian troops on different sectors of their front line? No, they have no freaking idea, dear friends. They literally have no idea. Also, on top of that, Trump went to say that the biggest progress is that the Russian economy, according to him, is in a terrible condition. It is collapsing, according to Trump. And honestly, the Ukrainian army is doing a good job stopping the large army. That's what Trump said. I can give you a short clip of that, dear friends. Trump is so ill-informed, by the way, so ill-informed that this is, I don't know, unbelievable, really. But let me give you a short clip of those statements of Trump about economy. Just look at this.
Been made on ending Russia's war against Ukraine since the last time you saw President Zelensky?
Well, the biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. It's, as you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly...
and you see how we said it, Russian economy is terrible right now, as you know. No, they don't know. They cannot know because this is lie. This is just lie, man. Russian economy is doing better than all the G7 countries, by the way. Literally all of them. Russian economy is growing higher and faster than their economies. And when it comes to G7, majority of G7 countries, economies are not even growing, by the way. So what he's talking about? I live in Russia. I live in Russia, right? And I know, I guess, better than anybody in Trump's administration. And yet again, I mean, he is time and again pushing these false narratives. It is difficult to believe that nobody in his inner circle is actually informed about the real situation here in Russia. Does U.S. embassy in Russia works? Do they send objective information to Washington? This is terrible, man. This is terrible, really. U.S. president is spreading lies after lies after lies after lies, which is, for God's sake, man, how long this nonsense is going to continue? It's crazy.
Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army.
So it's insane, man. That's what Trump is talking about, and how should anyone take him seriously, man, or his administration? Either they are really this ill-informed, either they are just constantly lying. Which one is? Which one is? I don't know. I don't know. And dear friends, also, as I already said, Trump threatened Russia with tariffs, which is an absolutely nonsensical statement, because if anything, tariffs on trade with Russia will harm U.S. economy and U.S. Energy market, because U.S. is unable to stop buying Russian enriched uranium for its nuclear power plants. And also, dear friends, Trump went to say that he will have a conversation with Hungary's Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, to pressure basically on Budapest to cut ties with Russia and stop cooperating in energy sector. I don't think this will work. Orban is a big Trump supporter, by the way, used to be at least, right? Or let me say other ways, differently. Orban is a big supporter, as far as I can tell, of America First movement, right? American patriots. And I can understand why. Orban himself, his team, his supporters, they are patriots of Hungary, and they consider America First movement, American patriots, to be natural allies, because they can find common ground, right? And that's why many of us here in Russia, by the way, consider America First force in US, American patriots, to be our natural allies. We can find common ground with them. We can talk, reach some agreements. And that's why I expressed hope many times in my previous updates that America First force will actually manage to regain initiative in Washington. It's not happening yet because Trump did not really act as America First movement's leader. At least that's how I see it. But nevertheless, I can understand why patriots in different countries consider American patriots, America First people, to be their natural allies. It does make sense, right? But nevertheless, I don't think Hungary's prime minister or Hungary's government gonna harm their own economy just because they want good relationships with Washington. And at least formally, Trump is supposed to be at least representative of their America First force. That he is not. But anyways, let's see what will happen. But I don't think Budapest gonna destroy ties with Russia. I don't think so. It's not just their oil, by the way, that Hungary buys from Russia. Trade between the two countries is improving, further developing, and also I believe Hungary's nuclear power plant is heavily dependent on Russian nuclear fuel too. It's not just U.S. nuclear power plants, but Hungary is also, and Russia is the biggest exporter of nuclear fuel for nuclear power plants in this world, right? There is no one even close. So let's see if Trump will call or have a meeting with Orban, how that will go. how that meeting will go. And now let me share with you statement that Trump made right now, as I'm on air on his True Social. And let me read for you, dear friends, this statement. So after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, I mean, this is lie. Trump has no freaking idea about any of it. And after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an opinion. Why not? Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win. And this is said by US president, by the way, president of the country that spent 20 years in Afghanistan and then ran. I mean, come on, man. How we should take this guy seriously, man. Let's continue his statement. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger when the people living in Moscow and all of their great cities, towns, and the districts all throughout Russia find out what is really going on with this war. The fact that it's almost impossible for them to get gasoline through the long lines that are being formed. Goodness me, man. I cannot believe he is writing this shit, man. I cannot believe this guy is writing this shit. What the hell is wrong with this moron, man? Who is briefing Trump? He's saying that there is no freaking gasoline here in Russia and there is queues on the gas stations. Holy shit, man. When last time I made a walk and talk video, man? Just like last week it was. Please check that video, dear friends, and look at the streets. This is crazy, man. This is freaking crazy. Are streets empty here? I mean, many people, by the way, let's be real here, many people would prefer less cars to be on the streets, right? But unfortunately, this is not the case. Unfortunately, there is freaking millions and millions and millions of cars on the street, and all this freaking pollution and stuff is not good, right? But Trump, president of US, on full seriousness, is saying that there is no gasoline here in Russia, and people cannot buy or fuel their cars. Insane, man. just insane, right? Let's continue. What else he said, by the way? I'm reading now first time, because this statement was made by Trump as I'm online, right? After I started the live stream. So he continues, war, the fact that it's almost impossible for them to get gasoline through the long lines that are being formed, and all of the other things that are taking place in their war economy, where most of their money is being spent on fighting Ukraine, which has great spirit and only getting better. Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form, and who knows, or maybe even go further than that. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is their time for Ukraine to act. In any event, I wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons by NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Good luck to all. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Well, this is insane, by the way, and towards the end of this statement, it looked like Trump kind of green-lighted this next phase of escalation, don't you think? Unfortunately, I mean, it seems like if we ignore all the bullshit that he is talking about, in the end there, I guess when he is calling basically Kyiv regime for actions and so on, I think he's calling NATO for action, and that can be seen as an indicator that Washington is on board completely with the next phase of escalation, and this escalation will happen in short time, which is unfortunate, by the way, because well, that means more death and destruction. But this is not a choice that Russia made. This is a war of choice of the collective West, and once they will go ahead with next phase of escalation, as I said previously on numerous occasions, I think Moscow will have no option but to retaliate with such a force that finally Western so-called elites, globalists, neocons, and all the others that are pulling the strings will have no option but to face the reality, acknowledge that they lost, and actually began de-escalating, and they're basically agreeing to capitulate before Russia. And they will, bother. Have no doubts about it. And dear friends, that's being said, let me continue with some more news. And there is a lot to discuss. Estonia, for example, open to hosting British nuclear-capable fighter jets. The Daily Telegraph writes that Estonia is ready to host F-35A fighters capable of carrying nuclear weapons following Tallinn's claim of alleged violations of the country's airspace by Russian fighters. At this point, anything is possible, really. Next phase of escalation, and NATO is going all in with their next phase of escalation. Have no doubts about that. And so, who knows? We might actually see deployment of nuclear weapons in Estonia, maybe from France, maybe from UK, if UK has nuclear warheads that can be deployed from the planes. I'm not really sure about it. France has such weapons, but I'm not sure about UK. But anyways, any level of escalation cannot be excluded at this point. RT is also reporting that US pledges to defend every inch of NATO. The US is prepared to defend every inch of NATO territory. Washington's envoy to the UN, Mike Waltz, said on Monday at the UN Security Council meeting. The pledge follows accusations from Poland and Estonia that Russia has violated their airspace, claim Moscow has rejected as a baseless. Yet again, another indicator that our next phase of escalation is coming. Meanwhile, interesting report from Germany that this country is placing a larger arms order, but the US will receive almost no money. Washington not going to be happy about it, and US military industrial complex. Germany's rearmament plan involves spending 83 billion euros, but American companies will receive only 8% of that amount. This is reported by Politico. Despite Donald Trump's urging Europe to buy American weapons, Germany, which was previously one of the largest buyers, will now spend on Europe and itself. The list compiled for the budget committee of the German parliament details 154 major purchases for defense needs from September 2025 to December 2026. Germany will spend the most on the Navy with the F-127 frigate program costing 26 billion euros. Next are Eurofighter tranche 5 fighters allocated 4 billion euros and another 1.9 billion euros for radar modernization. 3.5 billion will go to purchasing Boxer armored vehicles, 300 million for Iris-T air defense system, and 755 and 490 millions for naval missiles and SAMs respectively, and much more. Basically, among the major American purchases will be only Patriot air defense systems with the missiles worth 5.1 billion and torpedoes for P-8 anti-submarine aircraft costing 150 million overall. Germany will buy weapons from the US worth 6.8 billion which is only 8% of Berlin's plan. So some interesting stats there, isn't it, dear friends? Germany is militarizing. Germany is militarizing, following Poland, and I think this is related. This is related. My personal reading of the big picture is that, despite the current whole developments, by the way, I think Germany and Poland are gonna end up in a war against each other in next 10 to 15 years max, maybe earlier than that. And both countries know this. I think elites of the both countries, and they are preparing. They are preparing for a war. Poland is leading for now because for many years Warsaw was spending almost everything they had there on purchasing all sorts of weapons from all over the world. But Germany still has some industry, right? Still has some capabilities there, and they're gonna catch up fast. So I think in 3 to 5 years time, if Germany will pay serious attention to its military, actually, they might get to a level that Poland is right now, 3 to 5 years max. And after that, Germany most likely will gain upper hand compared to their Polish neighbors. Let's continue with some more news. And I mentioned this morning, dear friends, that in today's first update, that some 30 Iranian MPs signed a letter urging government recognizing reconsidering defense doctrine and stance on nuclear weapons. Basically, MPs were calling their leadership to change the current policy and actually move towards building nuclear weapons. And we have reaction on these calls. Supreme leader of Iran, Khamenei, stated, and this is quote, "Our uranium enrichment capabilities are at a very high level." And he also reaffirms that Iran does not intend to have nuclear weapons. Instead, they will be focused to improve the lives of the people. Science cannot be removed with the bombs, he also states. So basically, Khamenei may make it clear for representatives of Iranian elites that are calling for nuclear weapons to be built, that no, he is against it. And I think this opinion, this take of Khamenei is not going to be very popular in Iran, especially after Israeli and US bombings. And I don't know, maybe we will see some drastic changes inside Iran, by the way, because only way modern Iran can save itself is nuclear weapons, I think. It's not a fact that nuclear weapons will deter Israel or US for attacking Iran, but latent nuclear deterrent definitely did not work, isn't it? Iran enriched its uranium up to 60% to have a latent nuclear deterrent, isn't it? That several countries actually have in this world, like Germany, Brazil, Japan, and others. But this latent nuclear deterrent did not work. Israel and US attacked anyways. So therefore, I can understand that many people in Iran probably are thinking that, well, if latent nuclear deterrent did not work, let's go full nuclear then. Let's build the nuclear weapons. And they being green-lighted by the Saudi Arabia, for God's sake, their arch rival in the region. After Saudi Arabia signed mutual military assistance pact or mutual military defense pact with Pakistan. So Iran has a green light. Iran has technology, and I'm quite sure high enough level in science to build the nukes. And if supreme leader of Iran is blocking this idea, then he might trigger some processes inside Iran that will change the story of this country forever. let's see. Anyways, dear friends, we had calls for nuclear weapons, basically indirect calls, and we have answer also from supreme leader who is against nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, interesting reports that U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS Stockdale has transited the Panama Channel. This makes it the fourth destroyer of its class deployed to Caribbean in recent weeks. At the same time, Washington is actively restoring its old base in Puerto Rico and has brought in Marine Corps units, drones, naval assets, and even a vessel linked to special operations forces. So U.S. continues to build up its strike capabilities, by the way, in Caribbean, not far away from Venezuela. And well, it is highly likely that we're going to see U.S. Strike on Venezuela in relatively short time, and attempt of regime change and to recognize this Bolivarian republic. Already, dear friends, more than 13% more than 13% of U.S. deployed navy is located in the Caribbean, which is quite a lot, and this number is increasing. Also, dear friends, unrest continues in Philippines, and members of our community from the region hopefully will explain to us what, or hopefully will share their opinion to us, what they think is going on there. But me personally would not be surprised to learn that this unrest in Philippines are linked to, let's say, soft power of China, because this game of regime changes can be played by all sides that can master it, right? So US and the West in general was leading in this business of overthrowing governments left and right, but other countries are watching and learning. And it well might be that at one point geopolitical competitors of the US or the West will use same textbooks to do exactly the same, to overthrow governments that are pro-Western, let's say, and Filipino government is pro-Western, right? And Philippines are basically turned into a stronghold of the US, which cannot make China happy. So maybe while US is spreading its assets all over the world, maybe China is focused more on its own region, right? And maybe Chinese soft power has something to do with the unrest in Philippines, where already, due to these developments, more than 200 people have been arrested. And also, by the way, when it comes to China, it's not just Chinese soft power, but also military capabilities that are increasing, improving dramatically on year terms. And I'm going to show you, dear friends, right now, short video of latest Chinese aircraft carrier. And this video is quite impressive, by the way. You will see 3 type of planes that are taking off and landing on this Fujian or something that called this aircraft carrier. I cannot pronounce the name of it, but it's a new type of it's type 3 of aircraft carrier. I believe it's a super carrier, basically, one might argue. And let me share this video, by the way. It's quite impressive, actually. No, not to this one, but this one.
好，快入场，预备。
Well, it is impressive, isn't it, dear friends? A new aircraft carrier and there are three type of planes. It's KJ-600 AWACS aircraft-based radar plane, basically AWACS type or AWACS. Also J-15 carrier-based. This is this KJ-600, I believe. Also, dear friends, let me show you. This one is of course J-15 carrier base J-15, which is of course Chinese copies, unlicensed copies, by the way. They just copied Russian Su-33s, right? And they are trying to improve work on the planes, modernized constantly, and they call it J-15. These Russian fulcrums, by the way, this is fulcrum planes of different types, and of course J-35. Of course, this plane here is J-35 stealth 5th gen fighter jet, by the way, carrier-based 5th gen fighter jet. Quite impressive. Quite impressive. So yes, while US is wasting its resources all over the world on forever wars that don't bring nothing good for the US, well, other countries are more focused on some specific directions in specific areas on their own actual national interests, and China is definitely one of those countries. And well, as time goes by the way, Chinese People's Republic gonna become a more and more significant competitor to the West, to the US, in every way possible, including in military capabilities. Quite interesting, isn't it? Quite interesting stuff there. And let me continue with some. Other news, and well, it's not just China, by the way, not just China that is working on improving its positions in every possible way. Russia also does the same, and quite interesting news that I wanted to share yesterday, but I had no time for it, but I will share it today. Yesterday didn't, because live stream was already just too long. So Russia's defense minister, by the way, yesterday, Andrei Belosov, met with Nicaragua's Army Chief General Julio Cesar Aviles in Moscow. Talks marked 46 years of Nicaraguan army, prized time-tested military ties, and touched on regional security and the backdrop of the Russia Zapad 2025 drills. So something interesting here, isn't it? Russia is building up ties with the Latin American countries, not just Venezuela, but obviously Brazil is a BRICS member state and their ally of Russia, economical ally, let's say, political ally, maybe not military ally yet, but there are things to come, right? Russia is improving relationships with Nicaragua, Bolivia, Venezuela, obviously Brazil, with many other countries, Cuba, by the way. Right, China does the same. And I think because US was wasting so much resources and the time on forever wars all over the world, I think they are now so weak. I mean, US political class, maybe they don't realize this, but they are actually so weak that I don't think they are in a position to implement or to act on their doctrine that they had about South America. What they call that doctrine? Monroe Doctrine or something? that no one is allowed to be present, no major powers in this world are allowed to be present in South America. Well, what they gonna do about it? I wonder now. China is there, Russia is there, and are planning to stay, right? And I don't think Washington can actually do anything about it or beyond some strong statements. When it comes to statements, yes, we're gonna hear a lot of it, right? And we do on daily basis. But some interesting stuff there. And when it comes to developments, by the way, we have this report from RT that Indian Navy began largest ever shipbuilding initiative, which is a big deal, you know. India is a Russian strategical partner, closest ally, historically speaking, and of course, everything good for India is good for Russia. That's my personal take, and I believe vast majority of society here in Russia will agree with me. We have absolutely warm feelings towards India, Indian people, by the way. Indian Navy has embarked on its most ambitious shipbuilding program to date. The Hindu reported on Monday. Currently, 54 vessels are under the construction in Indian shipyards. 54 vessels, by the way, are under the construction. That's quite an achievement, isn't it? According to the newspaper, citing senior officials, the Navy is looking to commission 10 of these warships by December, with all 54 expected to be operational by 2030. The paper said India has a target of expanding its naval fleet to over 200 warships and submarines by 2035, with the possibility of reaching 230 by 2037. The report added their indigenous shipbuilding drive aligns with their Make in India initiative, which promotes self-reliance in a defense manufacturing to boost capabilities and create jobs. New Delhi has encouraged defense firms from friendly countries to partner with Indian arms manufacturers and booster their Make in India initiative. India and Russia have long-standing and rich defense relations going back decades. In July, Russia handed over the Tamal, their 8th Kriva-class frigate built for India, constructed at the Yantar shipyard in Kaliningrad with the 26% Indian components and overseen by Indian specialists, according to their Indian Defense Ministry. And I have no doubts, dear friends, that Russian military-industrial complex will provide their Indian colleagues with their expertise and with their technologies that can be transferred. We understand that there are certain naval technologies, especially when it comes to some nuclear stuff, or latest some, I don't know, hypersonic elements that can be classified. But because Russia and India are strategical partners, I'm quite sure Russia can help and will help India in a way that Russia would not to other countries, right? Including with the transfer of very sensitive technologies. So great news here, by the way. We definitely need a great relationships. We need strong India, we need strong Russia to make sure that multipolar world will actually work, right? Because we don't want any one country or any one force to dominate, right? So therefore, Russian-Indian strategical partnership is definitely one of those security guarantees that we can actually have in regards to multipolar world that is absolutely necessary. If America First Forces, by the way, will actually manage to reclaim their own country in US and make and clear, basically conduct clearing operation in regards to the so-called elites, if they will change political system, modernize the political system, get rid of corruption and corrupt elements, if they will be in charge, actually, America First Forces, US Patriots, then I think, theoretically speaking, in that case, we can actually build a triangle, Russia, India, China, triangle that will make sure that multipolar world actually gonna work. And no one country, and I mean China, by the way, will try in 20, 30 years from now to become as dominant force as US was once, right? And it did not end well, isn't it? And consequences still are echoing all over the world of that unipolarity period of human history. So to make sure that Chinese leadership in 20 years from now or 30 years from now, despite China being an absolute monster, economical, military, and so on, to make sure that Chinese leadership is acting friendly and adequately towards everyone, we definitely need some checks and balances in place. And ideally, Russia, India, and US could provide, with assistance of other countries, obviously, other countries could provide such a balance. But I don't know. Will America First Forces be able to reclaim their own country? That's a big question, man. I don't know. But Russia and India will try for sure. And few more news, dear friends, before I end the news segment of this update, this live stream. RT is reporting that Trump officially designates Antifa as a terrorist organization, which is, easy to say than do something about, because there is no such organization. As a registered organization, as Antifa, it's a sort of a movement, isn't it? And how they gonna fight this new terrorist organization that they come up with, like Antifa? I have no freaking idea. I don't understand what the hell is going on in US. Instead of moving towards reconciliation in the public, seems like this tragic story with Charlie Kirk is further dividing the society in the US, and this is not good, by the way. This is just too bad. I think her main task for political leadership of the country is to keep society united, not to divide it on our enemies and their friendlies and the foes, right? And seems like this is definitely not the case in US, not now, which is unfortunate. Also, dear friends, Georgian government once again made the open claim that it was the Western Secret Services that financed and orchestrated the bloody coup d'etat in Ukraine, after which in 2014 against Yanukovych, after which Ukraine was basically sacrificed. And the Georgian government is saying that same secret services are trying to do the same with Georgia, overthrow the government and so on, but this will not work. This statement is coming from a prime minister of Georgia. Let me give you some details. The Ukrainian Maidan was financed by the foreign intelligence services. The same is happening in Georgia, but we will not allow a repeat of this scenario. Irakli Kobakhidze has stated, as I said, Prime Minister of Georgia. The ruling party in the Republic, former Soviet Republic, Georgian Dream, has repeatedly warned that its opponents are preparing a Ukrainian scenario for Georgia, using their war in Ukraine as a central theme in its political messaging. Officials also say that the Western countries have privately promised to supply Georgia with weapons, but only if Tbilisi agreed to open a second front against Russia. And by the way, Georgian officials were saying publicly that representatives of the Western world were telling them that, you know what, guys, you are several million, and you start open the second front, you start the war against Russia, and we will assist you. And after all, you are several millions, and not all of you gonna die in the war. Some will survive. Literally, that's what they were saying. They were calling Georgian Dream government to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of Georgian citizens, and they were saying it openly. And Georgian Dream, by the way, has recordings of those conversations, and a number of high-ranking officials said it openly on few occasions that if necessary, they can provide proof that such conversations actually took place. So they have recordings, right, of those Western officials when they were calling Georgian government to sacrifice the people. I wonder why they didn't publish these recordings until now. But Maybe they will. But yet again, dear friends, I don't think it is rational to play Western game with the Western rules and hope for a success. This is never a good idea. And so if you ask me, I would recommend, or if Georgian government would ask me, I would recommend them, they're not going to do it, but I would recommend them to stop playing these Western games, by the way, to take strict actions against Western assets, against assets of the foreign countries in general, right? That's what all countries should do, by the way. Western or foreign assets should not be allowed to operate in your territory, right? So that would be my recommendation. Just neutralize foreign assets, right? And it happened that it is Western assets that are destabilizing Georgia and are used by Western secret services to prepare ground for regime change and to influence the local politics there and fate of the country and their citizens of the republic, right? Just neutralize them, for God's sake. Jail all of them for treason. That's it. You know, I'm not saying to execute them or something like that. No, just jail their organizers of their unrest, leading figures among Western assets, and rest make it possible. If they have no laws in place yet, just make it possible. You have a majority in the parliament. Make new legislation so that judges will have opportunity to sentence these idiots that are working for the West to do some community work for next 5 years. Let them freaking clean the streets of Georgian cities and their towns and the villages for next 5 years, by the way. That's enough time. That's enough time for them to think about the life, right? What is wrong and what is correct and the rest of it. And maybe they will become good citizens again. Who knows? But if Georgian government continues to play with the West, with the Western game of this freaking democracy, with the Western rules, by the way, I don't think they're going to succeed. I don't think so. You know, every country, every nation has its own ways based on its history, culture, tradition, right? And the system that might work in the West not necessarily gonna work elsewhere. And by the way, take a look at the West. Can anyone really say that Western system is working? I mean, really, can you tell me honestly that Western system of this so-called democracy is working? No, it's not, man. It's not. And that's why you are seeing tremendously stretched social fabric all over the Western world. And a number of Western countries are actually on the brink of civil war. Few more news, dear friends. RT is reporting that, Rupert Murdoch could take over the US TikTok, according to Trump. So US media mogul Rupert Murdoch and his son, Lachlan are likely to join a group of investors set to take over TikTok's American operations, US President Donald Trump has reported. So I don't know, something to, maybe we will never need this information. Maybe maybe sometimes we will be in a situation when topic comes up and we will know that, well, Rupert Murdoch and his son, they may become main investors into American branch of TikTok. Okay, TASS news agency is also reporting that Central Bank of the Russian Federation announced that there is a 15% increase in the average salary in Russia in 2025. The average wage in Russia will grow by approximately 15% in 2025. Kirill Tremasov, advisor to chairman of the Central Bank of Russia, told the reporters, which is not bad, by the way. This is higher than inflation, 15% increase of actual wages. So some good news there. Don't tell this to Trump, by the way. Don't tell this to the Trump that thinks that there is a cruise for freaking gasoline and people cannot fill the tanks of their cars and stuff like that. That was so embarrassing what Trump said in that post, by the way. And Trump himself is just freaking embarrassment, really, of the US, I think, especially of America First forces, because formally, yet again, I mean, formally, he should be the representative of the MAGA movement in America First. But and even though we know he is not, nevertheless, we know that because we read stuff, right? We pay attention to the stuff. But some other people that don't really pay much attention might think that, well, that's America First. And they're gonna have similar attitude to that movement, which is misleading understanding of the reality. But anyways, RIA Novosti also reported that the stock market price of the gold has reached a new all-time high, by the way. Absolutely not surprisingly, the exchange price of the gold has reached a new all-time high, exceeding $3,750 per troy ounce, according to trading data. And gold will continue to increase in price, by the way. I think it's only a matter of, I don't know, maybe another year, and gold will reach $4,000. It's definitely going to get there, for sure. And also, dear friends, let me end this news segment with this interesting news. I think that head of Russian Roscosmos unveiled how many rockets Russia will launch in 10 years. Russia must manufacture and launch 300 rockets and 1,000 satellites into space within the 10 years. This was stated by Roscosmos head Dmitry Bakanov. We have quote here: "We must manufacture and launch 1,000 spacecraft within 10 years. We must manufacture and launch 300 rockets within 10 years. That is 20-30 rocket launches per year," Bakanov said in the plenary season of the Microelectronics 2025 forum. And well, okay, by the way, some stats here, some ambitious, quite ambitious, I will say, plans of the Roscosmos, but realistic one, I think, or maybe even not that ambitious, actually. I mean, 30 launches a year. Okay, not bad. Russia is still one of the leading countries when it comes to space and space explorations, but take a look at SpaceX, by the way. They are launching missiles every other week, right? And they already have a couple of thousand of satellites in space for their Starlink, and God knows what else they do also simultaneously. So there is a potential to grow for sure, by the way. And you remember a few days ago I did reported that Russian specialists are also working on development of a Russian analog of the Starlink internet system, space internet system. And I think it's only a matter of, like, I don't know, 2-3 years, and we will see implementation of Russian analog of the Starlink in economy. So yes, some steps are made forward in this direction, and that's about it, dear friends. That's about it for this live stream. Quite a long one, but hopefully you did find it informative and useful. I was time to time monitoring the live stream numbers. I cannot see Rumble at this point, but on YouTube, on a few occasions, we reached 100 members of our community being online, which is great, by the way. Thank you all, dear friends, for your time and attention. And once more members of our community will learn that live stream has, I made changes in the programming, and now live streams are from 10, I'm launching live streams from 10 to 11 p.m. At evening time. Maybe more members of our community will join these streams. Now, dear friends, let me first share some super chat on super chat that from Rambo. So we have several super chat from Viper, I can see, and also from Sans. I will highlight these super chats right now, dear friends. Let me just copy them, and then I will join community chat as I always do for a little while, and I will try to be as informative as I can in my reactions on the questions or the comments. 2 hours, man, non-stop talk about news. That's quite stuff, man. That's quite stuff. So I have copied screenshots of the super chat. So let me share with you, dear friends, now this super chatter, and just a sec, dear friends. So let's start with the super chat from Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, for $5 donation and super chatter. Putin showed a picture of black Jesus. Do regular Russians believe Jesus is blacker? Putin showed a picture of a black Jesus. I have not seen that picture. Jesus was from Middle Eastern, so he was he was Middle Eastern, so he was a Semite, right? I don't think it really matters what color Jesus' skin was, really. If Jesus was or Jesus' ancestors, let's say, how should I say, man? The religious topics are very difficult, isn't it? But anybody, by the way, I mean, skin color, we'll understand, isn't it? Skin color depends on geography of your ancestors. If my ancestors, by the way, were living somewhere in around equator, I would be black, right? I would have a black, dark skin because my skin would need more melanin to protect me. But because I'm Southerner nevertheless, right? Not from Africa, but I'm Southerner from Caucasus region. I'm Georgian Ossetian, so my ancestry mainly are also Southerners, as far as I can tell, by the way, right? Georgian nation is formed according to common knowledge in Caucasus region, but Ossetians are descendants of Skytho-Sarmats, right? Skytho-Sarmatian civilization. They are, and Ossetians are Iranic-speaking people, as Skytho-Sarmatians were in Iranic-speaking. They are coming from, their roots are in the Middle East, right? So I am a Middle Eastern too, in some sense, right? My ancestors were, if we are talking about thousands and thousands of years ago. And therefore, I have a skin color that I have. My skin is darker than Norwegians, for example, because Norwegians don't really need that many melanin to protect themselves from sun, right? While, my ancestors needed more melanin. That's all it is, by the way. All this talk about skin is just too freaking crazy, isn't it? All this like racial stuff, it's just too crazy, man, right? So if we are talking about what we know about Jesus, he was a Semite, right? So he was I guess same color. He had same skin color as I am, right? That's what I can. And I did not see Putin showing a picture of the Black Jesus, by the way. Maybe he was maybe Jesus was depicted as Semite, right? As dark skinned, as he should be, because yet again he was from Middle East, right? His ancestry. I mean, he's what ancestry, man? He's like God, Son of God, and Holy Spirit. I mean, this is all difficult stuff to talk about, by the way, right? But you understand what I'm talking about, isn't it? Russians don't believe that Jesus was black. Russians believe in geography, and therefore people in southern regions have more dark skin than in the northern regions. That's what we believe, because this is factual. And Jesus was not from Africa, as far as I can tell. He was speaking Aramaic, right? And he was from Middle East. So that's my response. Yet again, I have not seen picture that you are referring to. So, thank you for your question. And there was also another super chat from Viper. Do Russians believe in their fabled Tartarian Empire? I have heard about Tartaria many times, by the way. There are so many programs on internet about Tartaria, and some are using some maps and so on and so on. I don't think people have any strong opinion on the matter, really. I think majority probably just don't care, right? So that would be my answer. If you go on the street and ask first 100 people what you think about Tartaria, probably vast majority will just look at you like, I mean, really? With impression like, I mean, don't you have anything else to do but to ask me that about Tartaria? What you want? That would be the reaction. That's my belief, dear friends. That's my take. I'm not in all sorts of theories, right? When it comes to history, I need historians to tell what was happening, how and why, and so on. When some dilettantes began talking about history and claiming that they know better than historians do, well, I have some issues with that. I love history, by the way. I love talk about history, sharing some stories from history and some episodes from history, but I have never ever claimed that I know history better than historians do, because I just don't. I'm not a historian, right? I'm a journalist by profession. So that's my answer on that. But topic of Tartaria, I have seen on numerous occasions on internet, by the way. People love to talk about all sorts of stuff and legends and so on, but let the historians speak about it. Also, there was another super chat from thank you very much for super chat and the question. And there was another super chat, dear friends, from Sans. Thank you very much, Sans, for your super chat and dollar donation. I am a peaceful person, but it's time to rise a globalist desperation, and for every offense you need to retaliate. Thank you very much, Sans, for your commentary and the super chat. And I think I'm going back to yesterday's statements of Russian president when he said that if it comes to it, Russia will retaliate not with the words, but with the military and technical means. And I think Russian president make such a statement, I would say potentially last warning to the globalists and globalist control regimes in the West, because of course he's briefed. He's one of the most informed human beings on the planet, right? If not the most informed human beings on the planet. And he knows what plans globalists have. He knows. And he was issuing direct warning diplomatically, without using any extreme language. But nevertheless, he sent yesterday, in my understanding, last warning to their globalists and their puppets in the West, right, in the Western regimes, that if they will go ahead with their whatever plans they have, next phase of escalation or whatever it is, then Russia will retaliate and retaliate hard. As I said previously, by the way, this is the topic that I'm talking about for, I mean, seems like forever now, that everything that has its beginning has its end too, and that can be said about patience of the Russian leadership too, and restraint. And we are at that point exactly when I think any further escalation from the West will trigger strong response from the Moscow. Thank you very much, Sans, for your super chat on Rumble. And there was also another super chat, dear friends, from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your $5 donation and super chat. Brian Burletic knows what's up. Brian Burletic was 100% correct, and is 100% correct, by the way, when he never ever failed to this hope that I failed, for example, that maybe new administration in US will actually de-escalate with Russia. I have to acknowledge, by the way, I failed to this hope that I have. I want this conflict to end. Vast majority here in Russia want this conflict to end, right? We don't love the wars, we don't love fights, and I mean, we will if we have to, but we are not about wars, by the way. We want to live in peace, right? So therefore, I failed, and many others probably failed to this hope that maybe this administration will be different, right? After all, Trump's supposed to be a representative of America First force, right? America First people in the US, but unfortunately, this is not the case, right? And it took a little while before I did realize that, no, man, Trump not gonna de-escalate nothing. He is not, he is not America First, right? It took some time for me to realize that. But Brian Burletic was never mistaken, at least as far as I can tell. He did not fail to this trick that, well, Trump's administration is different. These are America First people, and they will de-escalate. They will focus on America or best interests of the American people. No, Berletic knew straight, always. He was always saying that don't fail to this, propaganda that coming from Washington. And Trump is not about America First. U.S. political class is not about America First in general. System there is built in different ways, right? And with different objectives. And Berletic was on point, absolutely. So therefore, I agree with you up, 100%. Brian Berletic is, he's doing brilliant job, isn't it, to inform the community. And he is, for a reason, one of the leading figures in alternative media, about it, for sure. So, yeah, it is what it is. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your support, for your donation, and I believe there was no other super chat. Let me check, dear friends. So yes, there was 2 super chats on Rumble from Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, for your super chats and $10 donation through the super chats. And many thanks to Sans for super chat and dollar donation, and many thanks to Scooby for super chat and $5 donation, and for your comments, of course, dear friends, and the questions. And let me join community chat now. Let me join community chatter. I will scroll through chat, dear friends, and let's see if I will spot questions directed to me. Once again, thank you all for your attention, for being here, dear friends. This stream is already 2 hours and 10 minutes, and Anya, my wife, just sent me another screenshot about super chat from Sans. Let me highlight, dear friends, this super chat from Sans. So this is our second super chat from Sans on Rumble. Thank you very much, Sans, for dollar donation and super chat. I've noticed that a lot is happening at the battlefield lately. Is it true? Oh, it is true. It is true. Russian forces are about to finalize liberation of Kupyansk, which is a big deal. Obviously, I mean, big deal. Russian troops are about to completely cut off Kiev regime's garrison in Seversk. Russian troops had a breakthrough in Yampol direction, which is a settlement in between Seversk and Liman. And Russian troops finalized clearing operation in the Serebryanka forest, or a massive forest, by the way. That, I mean, it took fights were continuing there for since the beginning of special military operation, basically. And recently, Russian armed forces launched a relatively large-scale offensive to finalize clearing operation in that forestry, and did it successfully. And now they are basically advancing in direction of Yampol. From there, they can move towards Liman on the western side and Seversk on the eastern side. Simultaneously, Russian troops continue operations in Konstantinovka direction, in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction. Although, dear friends, in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction, in area of Russian breakthrough that happened a couple of weeks ago, Kiev regime has sent more than half of its assault troops, its reserves, to somehow push back Russian forces from this bridgehead that was created there. And according to reports that I see, extremely tense, extremely bloody fights are taking place in area of that breakthrough. And Kiev regime has no care about casualties. They are sending their most battle-capable reserve formations in that direction. This is a northern side of Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration. But nevertheless, I think I would not be mistaken if I will say that initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line. In the Dnipropetrovsk direction, already, like, I don't know, 10, 12 settlements are under Russian control, and process is intensifying. Russian troops advancing in Zaporizhzhia sector. So it is lot. I mean, of course, there is always significant activities on the line of contact, but lately, yes, we are seeing advances, big advances, right? Usually it's step by step, but lately, in several directions, we have seen big advances and very rapidly, like in Kupyansk, in Serebryanka forest, or in Dnipropetrovsk region, by the way, right? So because of these rapid advances, we might get the impression that now a lot of stuff is happening, and before was processed, slow. But Russian troops were advancing constantly all along the front. Initiative is in Russian hands, 100%. Thank you very much, Sands, once again for your super chat. And dear friends, I already responded to that. So let me scroll through chat, and let's see if I will spot question that is directed to me. Nathan Dunning is commenting, best not to trust the US. So we see what happens to countries that have discussions with the US. You let your guard down and get slammed. I mean, absolutely. Nathan, I agree with you absolutely. I mean, look what happened with Iran, isn't it? There was a 6th round of negotiations in preparations, isn't it? In Oman. And, well, it didn't end well, this engagement in negotiations for Iran. It didn't end well. And based on Israeli media reports, based on Western media reports, Trump and Witkoff were from their beginning engaged in a deception operation together with Israelis, in deception operation against Iran to cut Iranian leadership off guard. And they did it. I mean, initial Israeli strikes did come as a surprise for Iran. They did not anticipate that. And that's why they had quite a large number of casualties among scientists, leading scientists, among leading military personnel, right? If they, if they were a bit more careful, probably results would be not as devastating. So I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, time and again, U.S. Political class is demonstrating that they are weaponizing diplomacy, and they just cannot be trusted, no matter how hard or how much you want to have some agreement or to de-escalate or to reach some deal. You just cannot do it because they will lie to you. They will just lie to you. I mean, that's how it is. And I don't even know how U.S. political class gonna regain at least a little bit of a trust. I mean, I don't know. Oh, was there? Oh, there was a donation on a PayPal, dear friends, during this stream. Let me highlight. It's issues with the internet, or Patrick, thank you very much for your $35 donation on a PayPal. Truly grateful. Thank you. There is no comment to highlight. Thank you. And I'm not pronouncing correctly. So thank you very much, Patrick.
It's your friend Patrick from Wisconsin. You are doing a fine job.
It's a comment from. Oh, there was a comment, dear friends. So let me highlight. Anya is helping me. It's my wife's PayPal account, by the way. I don't have one, so my wife is helping me with it. So comment from Patrick is that it's your friend Patrick from Wisconsin. You are doing a fine job. Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you very much for your attention and support. I appreciate that. Thank you. And let's continue scrolling through comments, dear friends. Mickey is commenting, Moldova should fight any NATO interference. They would not, I mean, authorities in Moldova would not, because, I mean, they are representatives of NATO, they are representatives of globalists, right? So they're not going to fight it. But if they see that they are losing, they are unable to manipulate with elections and they are losing in numbers, then they will go ahead with all sorts of provocations. And as Russian Foreign Intelligence Service stated today, NATO already has plans for intervention into Moldova. And as I said in new segment, allegedly, I mean, not allegedly, I mean, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service is saying that a number of troops of France and the UK already are deployed in Odessa, and they have plans to deploy more. So I guess if today Russian intelligence service share this information with us, then maybe tonight, maybe right now, some Russian missiles and drones are heading towards the location of those French and British troops. Who knows? But I think some measures will be taken to neutralize those troops. Kate Stone is commenting, "I'm so sorry for the USA West involving, which will kill us all. I will always love us all, no matter what." I mean, let's hope it will not come to a full-scale war, Kate. Unfortunately, I have no doubts that we're gonna face next phase of escalation. Global is not gonna stop until they are forced, basically, to act adequately. So therefore, next phase of escalation seems inevitable. But still, I don't think we're gonna end up in a full-scale war. I just don't believe in that. Right? Self-preservation will prevail among globalists, and they will de-escalate eventually. So we're not going to end up in a full-scale nuclear war. We're not going to face extinction level event. But it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that Western countries or elites of the Western countries do it through because they are losing power and dominant position in the world. They are acting more and more irresponsibly and provoking all sorts of problems all over the world. Really, that's really tragic because people are dying as a result. Innocent people, mainly. I see a question from Nidish Kumar. Levan, why don't Russia order Sukhoi Su-30M production in India? Our entire plant is empty and we have a licensed production. You just have to make engines so you get more air power. Well, that's a good question, Nidish. That's a good question. We need more planes, and the Su-30s prove themselves, right, to be very capable planes. Are one of the best from the Fulcrum family, isn't it? And I don't know. I have no answer on that. If a plant that build their Su-30s for Indian Air Force is not that busy now and can build their Su-30s for Russian Air Force, why such order is not given, I have no idea. But this is legit question. I mean, I don't know, Nidish. And we need more planes for sure, right? We need more military equipment. Maybe there is some works in a place to start building Su-57s in that plant. Maybe something is going on, because otherwise it makes no sense whatsoever to keep high-tech plant that can build 4+ generation fighter jet not being busy, right? It's what the hell. So maybe there is some works inside the plant that is classified yet to begin producing Su-57s or something like that. Is it possibility? I cannot know. I don't know, but maybe this is the reason. But question is absolutely legit. I mean, If there is no reconstruction in a place and there are no plans to build the Su-57s, then I have no idea why wouldn't Russia order Su-30s from India to be, India to build and deliver to Russia. Yes, it will cost a little more than if those planes are built in Russia, because a company that will build it have to have some profits, right? But anyways, I mean, we can increase production of the planes, and India is a Russian strategical partner, so let the Indian companies benefit some. It's win-win for both sides. I don't know, Nidish. I have no answer. Hopefully, there are some works to build their Su-57s. That would be good news. And dear friends, there was a super chat from John Banzubins. Let me share with you, dear friends, super chat from John, our moderator on Rumble and YouTube channels. And well, this is good stuff now. I know. Banzo Beans, thank you, John, for your super chat dollar donation. And comment from John is, say hi to Duer Dissidents Rumble family. Hello, everyone from Duer Dissidents. Hello, Duer Dissidents community. Welcome to our tiny community, and many thanks, John, for introducing us to a much bigger community from Duo Dissidents. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you, and thank you, John, for all you do to help me to work on this project and try to move forward. Thank you. Let's continue with the chat, dear friends. For members of Duo Dissident community, I will say that first 2 hours of this live stream is a news segment. It's a news segment, a news from Russia, from pro-Russian commentary on it. So if you are interested, please check the video. You might find it. Hopefully, you will find it interesting and informative and useful. Interesting question from Rafael Ligonder. Like Leonid Brezhnev did by removing Khrushchev. You liked Leonid Brezhnev removing Khrushchev. Well, probably many people were happy with that at the time. Many people probably were happy because Khrushchev was a total disaster, by the way, in many ways, or in every way possible, actually. I mean, he gifted Crimea, as I said, for many reasons. And one of them, for example, being he gifted Russian Crimea to Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic without asking anybody anything, right? Without asking locals. Do they want to become residents of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic now? And Crimea is, by the way, so important for historical, cultural, traditional position for Russia. And Khrushchev, this psycho, took this territory and gifted to Ukrainian Soviet Socialist. Many people in the West don't even know this, isn't it? Many people in the West have no freaking idea, I guess, that there was no such a state as a Ukraine ever in history, ever. Kingdom or anything, nothing, right? Ukraine is absolutely creation of the Bolsheviks after revolution in early 20th century. That's all. And political Ukrainian is a creation of British aristocracy and the German aristocracy, historically speaking. And the word Ukraine is originated from Polish, from Poles. It was a certain area of this former Soviet Republic used to be controlled by Poland, and they were calling that area Ukraina. And Ukraine is originated from Ukraina, and Ukraina then and now means outskirt in Polish and in Russian, and Polish and Russian languages are Slavic languages, right? So many words, or majority of words, actually have the same roots, right? As it is case in all Slavic languages, and as it is case in any language family, right? Most of the words have same roots. They just maybe due to time and different influences, they might begin sound differently, but they have same roots. So yes, that's what it was. And Khrushchev, this psycho, took the Crimea and gave it to Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, which was crazy, man. Crime, I will say, right? And there was many other psychopathic ideas that Khrushchev actually realized. You know, he was fascinated by US for whatever reasons, right? He went to US, he was impressed big time. He was a гребаный урод, that's what he was, man. Just some low intellect, low life creature, that Khrushchev, and sneaky one. That's how he ended up in a position of leadership in a communist party, you know. So yes, at the time, people of Soviet Union probably were happy that Brezhnev and his team did actually remove Khrushchev. Yes, I think so. Although I was not yet born for that time, by the way. I was born much later. But in Soviet Union, nevertheless. Let's continue the friends. Aziz is commenting, Levan, you should look at the Trump's last through social. You'll be very disappointed. And yes, I was, by the way. I read it. I read it. He made that statement on True Social after I launched this live stream. And I mean, you are correct, Aziz. I am disappointed because what the hell, man? What is he? Why he is acting this irresponsibly, man, and why he is betraying America First people that elected him, that supported him? And does he has any self-respect, for God's sake? What he is doing, man? And without opposition, what the hell? Why J.D. Vance is doing nothing? Why others that are affiliated with America First movement? Why others are not intervening? You know, I don't get it, man. But yes, I read his article somewhere in the middle of their news segment. I read his that not article but that post on his True Social, and it's crazy stuff, man. It's really crazy stuff there. So I will scroll a little faster, dear friends, to spot the questions. It's already 2.5 hours, this live stream. Oh, that's interesting. Alexander G is commenting that Borzik Man, this is creator, this is channel on YouTube, dear friends, reported Ayatollah Khamenei deferred his fatwa to the National Security Council a couple of months ago. If that is true, they probably are working on it now. If true, for sure then. But why would Khamenei then say today that they don't want to build they are not planning to build nuclear weapons. I don't know. But if he delegated decision on the matter to Security Council, then who knows what decisions have been made. And maybe Iranian experts actually are working on nuclear weapons. Could be their case. And Ayatollah's fatwa might be still in force, but nevertheless, I mean, if Security Council will make decisions that nevertheless they're gonna go ahead and secretly build a couple of nukes to have a nuclear deterrent, I think they would not be judged too strongly for that. Let's say this way. So anything is possible. Maybe, I mean, clearly Iran has a green light from Saudi Arabia to go ahead and acquire nuclear deterrent. So it might well happen. There was a super chat, dear friends, on Rumble right now. Let me highlight, if I may, super chat from Sans. Thank you very much, Sans, for your another super chat and the $2 donation. And comment from Sans is, I'm sick of the West hypocrisy. While they are attacking Russia, for every move, Israel is demolishing Gaza, killing journalists, etc. Trump is holding hands with Netanyahu more than with his wife. And I understand your 100%. It is sickening. It is sickening what is happening. Anytime or every time some unfortunate, tragic incident happens in the zone of special military operations, some Russian missile might misfire or drone. Unfortunately, during the high-intensity conflict, there is collateral damage. Sometimes Kiev regime is intentionally holding or keeping their militaries in places where some civilians might be around, and as a result of Russian strikes, civilians being hurt. Unfortunately, collateral damage is happening. It's hardly avoidable, but we all understand that Russia is not targeting civilians intentionally and tries as much as possible to avoid casualties among civilians. And nevertheless, whenever there is unfortunate, tragic situation with collateral damage, whole West is going crazy, isn't it? Whole Western so-called media, and they are accusing Russia of all sorts of crimes, including genocide, by the way, believe it or not. And very same people and very same so-called media is quiet in regards to actions of the Israel in Palestine, when actual genocide is happening, and they are saying nothing in most of the cases, right? And when it comes to Trump, he's actually on a board with Netanyahu, and Trump was openly calling for ethnic cleansing and talking about Gaza Strip as if locals mean nothing and lives of the local people is irrelevant. Trump was talking about some business, which is sickening, isn't it? People are dying in tens of thousands, and you are talking about ethnic cleansing, moving locals out, survivors, and then to do some business there. It's sickening, man. It's sickening. Absolutely, I agree with you, and I understand your anger 100%. Thank you for sharing, Sans, and for your super chat and support. And there was also another super chat, also from Sans, dear friends. Let me share with you now. Once again, thank you, Sans, for your super chat and $2 donation. A question from Sans is, how are you, normal citizens, coping with the war? I was a wreck when war in Yugoslavia was going on. Well, it is a stressful. It is a stressful. Almost, I think, a vast majority, at least. I mean, maybe not everyone, but vast majority of citizens of Russia knows something, either family member or relative or friend that is participating in a special military operation or was participating, right? Myself included, by the way. One of my relatives were heavily wounded in a zone of special military operation. He recovered. He was in military intelligence, and he was operating behind enemy lines. I cannot go into specifics, but he and his team, they were operating beyond enemy lines. They end up in some unbelievable close range battle, and well, he was heavily wounded, survived. Unfortunately, they lost one of their fighters in that battle, but take down a lot of enemy manpower. He survived and still serves, continues to serve, by the way. And another relative was in special military operation since the first wave, when a special military operation began, and there continues to serve to nowadays. So we all heard the stories. We all know people that are participating in a special military operation. It's a stressful stuff, especially when you hear that someone was wounded or killed. It's a stressor, but I mean, if you go on the streets and talk to people, vast majority will tell you that we are on the right side of history, and we are actually defending ourselves from our NATO aggression. So therefore, there is 100% absolute support for Russian militaries in a society. Of course, none of us are happy that we end up in this situation, but we have to do what we have to do, isn't it? And that's how it is. It's difficult, though. It's difficult. No one is happy about what is happening, and we should keep in mind, dear friends, that it's a civil war. I said many times before, this is a civil war. It's brothers, by the way, relatives, literally relatives killing each other on the battlefield, right? Literally relatives, by the way. There are many instances when one brother is on one side, another on another side, father is on one side, son is on other side. There are a lot of such cases. It's a literally civil war that unfortunately was, Western ruling elites were able to provoke. They did brainwash significant part of society on Q-controlled territory. They were working hard on that for decades, and unfortunately they were successful. And they provoked this war, and now we are killing each other. People of one world, Russian world, are killing each other, which is a tragedy, of course, right? So it's a tragedy. It's very sad, but yet again, in society, there is absolute support for Russian militaries and understanding that we are on the right side of history. We know we are on the right side of history. And this does helps, by the way. When you are fighting, just fight, you are stronger. You are psychologically stronger, and this is very important. Thank you very much for your question and the super chat, Sans. And I can understand you had similar feelings when, unfortunately, similar tragedy was happening in Yugoslavia, when brotherly nations began fighting each other. Once again, maybe some members of our community don't know, but these are one family, by the way. Serbians, Croats, Bosniaks, by the way, they all are Serbs, basically, right? They are one family. Croats are Catholics. That's the main difference from Serbs. Serbs are Orthodox Christians, and Bosniaks, they are Muslims. Due to Ottoman Empire and occupation and stuff like that, many Serbs during their centuries of occupation were transferred to Islam, and modern Bosniaks are descendants of those Serbs that were introduced to Islam, right, centuries ago. But they still are Serbs, right? They still are Serbs, by the way, and they were killing each other. Same from people from Chernogorия, by the way, or Slovenia. It's a brothers, right? Brothers. I mean, there was no, thanks God, there was no such a catastrophe in Slovenia and Chernogorия as it happened in regards to Bosnia, Serbia, and Croatia. But nevertheless, I'm quite sure it was very painful for all normal people in Yugoslavia to see this bloodshed when brothers were killing each other. And who provoked that war? Western elites, isn't it? Western elites. And eventually they get engaged directly, and they bombed Serbia. Dear friends, this live stream is almost 3 hours now, and so if I may, I will end now this live stream. My apologies if I miss your question. Ask me tomorrow, dear friends, during the live stream, or yet again. I mean, the super chat feature is a good stuff. I definitely would not miss super chat because my wife is helping me to monitor the chat. So we had a good conversation, isn't it? We had a good conversation. Hopefully you did like news segment and also question time or community chat part of this live stream. Thank you all, dear friends, for your attention and support. Many thanks to members of our community for donations and their super chats, for attention. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and see you tomorrow. Bye for now. John, thank you very much for helping and for assisting. Thank you all. Bye for now, dear friends.